Good afternoon, Guardians. Welcome back to another episode of Tower Casuals. Normally, you would hear Corey introducing the show, but Corey's abandoned us. I'm kidding. He's in Boston for PAX East right now. He's doing a lot of interviews. He's got a bunch of stuff set up. We'll be sure to promo that where you can read and or listen to a lot of that next week on next week's episode. But for right now, the show goes on. Just decided since it's not a huge important week, pretty much all we have to talk about is the live stream and questions that we have asked. Decided that I was gonna fly it solo a little bit today, so that's where we are. Um, I guess the topic of the day really is Tuesday's live stream. We're just going to jump right on into it. The first Into the Light stream. If you guys have listened for the last couple months, you know that I haven't been too hot on this. I did not think this was going to be anything of substance. This ended up being cooler than I thought it was going to be. I think it took a different direction than a lot of us were hoping for personally. I know that personally I was really hoping for the return of the old campaigns, because I am like absolutely convinced we're seeing that this year. This is a studio that really needs to get some good press. And I mean, speaking of press, we're going to talk about some internal Bungie trouble after we get through this part of the show. But I think that what a lot of us were really hoping for was the return of the old campaigns, long shot return of some of the old raids. I think we wanted the campaigns. I think we wanted strikes, the old loot, and I think a lot of us had really maybe hoped that we would get a tease of the old raids. And then the promo artwork we got last week really seemed to hint, oh, we're gonna get old weapons back. And sure enough, Midnight Coup was confirmed. Midnight Coup was confirmed during the stream. I don't know entirely how I feel about this. I think Onslaught looks really cool. Let's start with that. I think Onslaught looks really cool. It's kind of a Horde meets tower defense style mode, so it's kind of like a Horde mode with a Bungie spin on it. I enjoy that part of it. I like that you use the scrap that you earn, and everybody gets scrap no matter who kills the target. So you're not jockeying for score essentially. Everyone gets that scrap to spend. You got to be strategic with how you spend it. You can upgrade them. You got to replace things as they break, etc. I thought that was really interesting for a horde mode, specifically for a Destiny horde mode. I found this interesting. What I didn't find interesting is this is a mode that we've kind of asked for like 5 or 6 years now. I personally am on the record as saying I don't think we're ever getting a true horde mode. That Gambit was probably the closest we were going to get, or some of these seasonal modes. Lo and behold, I do think they've taken some of the seasonal experiences that we've seen, particularly, I would say, you look at modes like the Vex Offensive from Undying. You look at I forget what it was called, the mode that we had during Season of the Splicer. Where you're defending the core and you're getting you get to a certain score and then you get teleported into the Vex network. It kind of feels like that way here. You get through a certain amount of rounds and then you're getting teleported onto the pyramid ship, which is a dope twist. I think that's really cool. I think it's really important that they have said that they took the experience that's developed here in Onslaught and built it out of what we've liked from the challenge of certain activities this year, including deep dives and the coil. That's what I was looking for. I like that it's set on Earth. Like this is pretty explicitly something that we have on Earth. That Midtown is just the first map that we've seen. If I had to guess, your Bannerfall, I would guarantee you Bannerfall is one. That kind of leaves like Dead Cliffs or Twilight Gap as the other one. Because I assume there's going to be 3 of these. Good idea to use existing assets here too, by the way. This was a really good idea, I think, because you had limited time. I wonder if they had a mode like this that they were kind of cooking. We had a question about this. I want to read who sent this in. Tiger Jesus wrote this in the Discord. Do y'all think Bungie always had plans for a horde mode, but upper management never gave the devs the green light to make it? I would say to a degree, probably. I think they decided, well, if we keep horde modes as seasonal content, one, players probably won't get as mad about us sunsetting it, and two, they can kind of have it feel fresh whenever they bring it back, put like a fresh twist on it, and like, oh, you had it for like those couple months, and now it's gone. I think that works to an extent, but like Battlegrounds, I feel like that approach was overused. I actually think Onslaught's a really cool opportunity to maybe, because this is kind of what I wanted Gambit to be. I'm going to be honest. I like the idea of Invaders and Gambit, but I've liked it a lot less as each year goes on. I think Gambit is just, we can all agree, has just like fallen apart as an activity. This could be a good opportunity to perhaps, excuse my voice, I've got something in my throat. This actually could be a really good opportunity to take Gambit out of the game temporarily and have Onslaught replace it. Maybe even have it exist as like a fourth mode. I don't know. I have to assume this content is staying in the game and is not just being taken out with the final shape. I will be massively disappointed if this is just yanked out when the final shape comes out. Because to go through all that and put something in for 7 weeks is, well, it would be very Bungie. Let's just put it that way. It would be very Bungie-esque. I hope this is not something that just goes away after 7 weeks, though. This is an activity I think has some potential. I think that, I mean, at least leave it in for the next year. That's what I would say. If we still have things like Dares of Eternity, you can leave this in. I'm going to be totally honest. I do like the idea behind it. Like I said, I like the idea behind it. I like the idea of turrets, trip mines, and sweeper bots being the obstacles. I took some notes on the stream, and I want to talk about the good before we get to the bad. There was some bad in this stream, but I think that we all really like the idea that the pyramids are terraforming these maps. It looked like it was just enough to terraform it to make it feel and look different. I would love for these to be variants of the Crucible maps, by the way. I would love these variants to be in the playlist. Maybe post Final Shapes release, they can do that. I think that would be really cool. I love that Shaxx is the host. Shaxx being the host and giving you hype points is fantastic. This is a character that we've been begging to spend more time with. We've never really gotten to spend time with. He's never been like the host of a season or anything along those lines. It's been largely disappointing to me. I think Shaxx is probably the most, not in terms of like lore and stuff, but like in terms of in-game interaction, Shaxx is hands down the most disappointing NPC to me. Like we've had more interaction with Amanda Holiday than we have Shaxx. That's where we're at. We've had more interaction. He's basically been as forgotten as Hawthorne at this point, and that's not cool for one of our OGs. I like the idea of we're going into his private wares for the rewards. And of course, the two guns that we got confirmed during this were Midnight Coup and Hung Jury. I want to know who at Bungie has such a hard-on for this gun, because this is now, if you, and I mean, we're not going to include the adept versions, but this is like the 4th reissue of this gun in Destiny 2 alone. What is the fascination with it? Because you can go buy this still from Zavala right now. I just want to know. I want to know who at Bungie has like clearly some sort of emotional ties to this particular gun. It's very weird. It makes no sense to me. And this is coming from someone who quite likes Hung Jury. I don't understand why this keeps coming back. It's a real shame that is taking one of the slots of rewards. And it makes me really like bummed out when I think about the possibilities of we could be getting back. Because they said that Shaxx is going to work with other characters. So right off the bat, you've got Midnight Coup. That tells me, okay, he's going to work with the Cabal. We're going to get a couple Cabal weapons in here. We've heard through the grapevine with the Eververse mining that the JP Deathblade does, that Recluse and Hammerhead are likely coming back. The developers also specifically made a comment about Shaxx is bringing back some weapons that are frowned upon in the Crucible, which those two down were frowned upon. I would also say that I would think that you have the potential to possibly, I'm saying this like very tentatively, maybe Mountaintop comes back. I don't think Mountaintop is as much of a lock as Recluse, because with Recluse, I think you can give it random rolls and okay, it'll still be a monster, but like maybe it won't be as oppressive. Mountaintop, I feel like you take away the combo of micro missile and spike nades, and okay, it's that's what made Mountaintop Mountaintop. Maybe you can make it like a pinnacle reward or something, but the idea is we're bringing back all these weapons, and because you need the best arsenal against the Witness, nothing is off limits now. That, I mean, combined with some of the artwork that we saw, the artwork we saw last week, right? We all pretty much pointed out, oh, that's Blast Furnace. And, you guys know, Nerd and I love Blast Furnace. That's one of our favorite guns ever in the game. One of our favorite primaries. I gotta think that's coming back. So that and Hammerhead hint that Black Armory is back. I can't imagine this weapon slate is bigger than 8 to 10 weapons. This is a 7-week activity. Unless you can earn these weapons throughout the game, which I would say there's probably a chance you can. That I can't imagine it being bigger than 8 to 10 weapons. So let's go through who we could potentially be getting weapons from. If we're assuming there's 2 from each category, I'm assuming 2 Leviathan weapons. I'm assuming Midnight Q's not the only one. I'm gonna say Ghost Primus, the auto rifle, is probably the other one. And I'm trying to think of like which families haven't gotten new weapons in like seasons lately. And so I think Ghost Primus is probably going to be one. That and Midnight Coup are probably your 2 Leviathan weapons. For Crucible weapons, I would say Recluse, Mountaintop. Recluse for sure. I'm leaning Mountaintop here, but knowing my luck, they're gonna say like, here's the Komodo. God, who remembers that linear fusion? I would have said Breakneck if we hadn't just gotten it back this season. I think this would have been a great opportunity for Breakneck to return. And likewise, if we weren't getting Hammerhead, then I would say 21% Delirium. I think Gambit weapons are off the table. I think they've gotten into a good cadence of being able to just reprise those as actual Gambit rewards. And I think that really the only Gambit weapons that were worthy of being reprised, as rewards really are Breakneck, 21% Delirium. Moving on, I think that, if you're Shaxx and you're trying to build a great armory, I think that the next person you got to turn to is Saint 14. We have never had, that is officially now the one foundry we have not had reprised in any way, shape, or form. It's the Black Armory, and it's Saint 14 / Osiris's weapons, the lost weapons from Season of Dawn. I would love to see this set, and it bums me out that my favorite weapon from that set is probably not coming back if we do only get 2 weapons, because fucking Hung Jury looks like it's one of the weapons. Patron of Saints is probably not coming back as a scout rifle, and that's a huge bummer to me. I would say that Breachlight, which is the oh god, is it Breachlight? I want to say Breachlight is the sidearm from that season. I could see that coming back. I could see Perfect Paradox. Joe Aces threw this one out to me. Maybe Perfect Paradox comes back. I could see that, but god, we've had that gun like. Then again, I mean, I'm sitting here complaining about Hung Jury. Like, we've gotten Perfect Paradox 3 times too. Like, why not give us like the best possible version of it? I'd like to get Perfect Paradox just like as an exotic one of these days to just say that's it, no more. And then I think about like what fill that. So I mean, that gives us that would potentially give us 2 Crucible for those keeping track at home. 2 Crucible weapons, 2 Leviathan weapons, 2 Saint weapons. That probably leaves us in a situation where we have 2 Black Armory weapons. And if Hammerhead is one of those, the question turns to what's the other one. I would have said Kindled Orchid here. The Black Armory hand cannon. I don't think they're going to do a release with 2 legendary hand cannons. Right there, especially one of them is Midnight Coup. If I had to guess, I mean, well, Blast Furnace. I mean, it's probably Hammerhead and Blast Furnace. Let's be totally honest. If that's the 8 weapon lineup you get, with like the tentative ones obviously being Saints, I think the other 6, I think at least 5 of the other 6 weapons are locked in. um, then that's a pretty good reprisal pool. I don't think you're going to see any former trials weapons. I don't think you're going to see any. Um, man, just like so many of the weapons I would have brought back have already been brought back. Like, um, I went and looked back through the Sunset raids. Um, if you're gonna bring back Leviathan weapons, it's like Midnight Coup, Ghost Primus. That's about it for me. Nothing from the Spire of Stars and Eater of Worlds, and nothing from those. Crown of Sorrow really doesn't have it. I mean, maybe Galran's right hand. You know, maybe Emperor's Courtesy, the shoddy. I do think you're getting a shotgun, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be if you do get a shotgun, I think it actually maybe it's funny that we're coming to this now. We're talking about Black Armory. We've got another Black Armory set we can draw from, and that's the Scourge of the Past. I almost wonder if the threat level shotgun will come back. I don't think there's any way they get through that they do this without bringing a shoddy into this, and I think it's either going to be threat level or it's going to be perfect paradox. Those are the only two choices I could see from Sunset weapons that you would bring in. This is, of course, assuming that we stay to 8 weapons. I think you're getting a minimum of 8, a maximum of 10. And, of course, you know, I'm sitting here throwing all these theories out. We still have Hung Jury on the table. So that, to me, that hints either 2 Vanguard weapons or 2 faction weapons. Future War Cult already had all their weapons brought forward. I don't know what New Monarchy has off the top of my head. I was never a New Monarchy person. I don't know if there were any weapons worth having in that arsenal. Maybe in like the new metas there is. If not, then I would say that this probably hints at we're getting another Vanguard weapon thrown in here, and I don't know what are you gonna do? Give me Edgewise? Yeah, give me the Buzzard. Like, what are you going to give me? Like I think every Vanguard weapon has been brought back at this point, except for Edgewise. So I don't know what it is. Maybe this is where you throw a Gambit weapon in there. You know, maybe Hush comes back. Oh, watch. We're all going to get played. It's going to be like fucking exit strategy. I know that was a question that we had tonight. What weapons would we like to see in this? I think it was Sammy. Yeah, Sammy asked, "What weapons would you like to see return in a new form in the Brave Arsenal?" That's my best answer. That's my best answer on that. I have spent some time over the last couple of days thinking about it. Of course, this may all be moot in a couple of days. We do have confirmation that Tuesday's stream is going to talk about the weapons. Before we move on to that, though, let's get through a few more things in Onslaught. The Onslaught activity is going to feature 50 waves with a difficulty climb every 10 levels. There is going to be 3 variations of this. There's going to be the playlist variation, which is just it's match made, it's 10 levels, the end. Good for those who just want a quick run. I would suspect those who just like want to farm rewards. There's the normal version, which is standard 50 levels. I think this one is also match made. And then you have the legend version, which is you have to get your own fire team together for it. I'm very excited to try out all 3 variations. I'll tell you right now, I'm fully expecting to fail in legend. They've said that legend in the higher difficulties climbs to GM Nightfall difficulties. So I'm very excited to see how that works. In normal, you get free revives, unlimited revives until level 30, and then the darkness timer kicks in, and the extinguish timer kicks in. So if all 3 go, if you go down, that's it. In Legend, that is on by default. So definitely interested to see if anybody can blow through that. But yeah, there's going to be bonus waves that are going to appear, and we'll give rewards such as heavy ammo crates. Every 6 waves, you get teleported to the pyramid ships. There's going to be 3 different defensive positions on the map, and you're going to get rotated between those upon return from pyramid ships. Not every time, but sometimes you'll be changed. This is a lot. We saw both Elixni and the Hive attacking. We saw an ogre wave with a massive ogre in Midtown. That was really cool to see. We saw some big Elixni bosses, and the question of where are the Taken at? was answered kind of ominously. The Taken are quote unquote elsewhere. I would imagine if you're going to have variations of this activity, it is likely going to be Hive, Elixni. I would say Shadow Legion are probably going to be a part of this, just to like keep another enemy type in there, and probably Scorn. It's very interesting that the Taken aren't there, and that there is a lore reason for it supposedly. So I'm curious to know if the Taken maybe play into the final mission of the season. We do know there's going to be one final thing at the end of the season. I wonder if that's what they're being saved for. Um, as, Aside from that, we got some info on rewards. Every time you beat 10 waves, you get a chest in challenge mode on normal. You get normal chests all the way until the end. Hard mode, for every 10 levels you clear, it's double rewards. So I think that's going to be a big incentive for some folks. Every sixth wave, you get a pyramid ship. We already talked about that. And that this is kind of what we're doing while Crow, Mara, and Osiris are building the bridge from basically from here through the Traveler to where Crow is. From everything that they said, Crow sounds pretty damn central to the story that's going to be told in the final shape. I'm very curious to see. They emphasize, he's earned it. It's really, really cool. I'm so excited about this. I'm flying through the TWAB to see if anything is here. You're protecting the ADU, the Advanced Defense Unit. If at any point that gets destroyed, it loses all of its health. Your session is over. First 9 waves of each round will be divided into 3-wave rounds, with the waves in each round ramping up in difficulty. Most of these waves focus on defending the ADU, but you'll have a chance to go on the offensive and take out the Witness's forces on the pyramid ship. For each round ends, you'll get a short breather before the wave difficulty is reset and the next round begins. 10th wave, you'll board the pyramid ship to take on a boss. One of many possible bosses. Chest drop with rewards. You pick up ADU batteries that drop from enemies, and you can throw those at your unit, which will not only heal it, but if it has full health, then you get triple the scrap. I believe it was. There's going to be bonus objectives, which will often force a different style of play that will at times require you to venture further into the battlefield and away from the defenses. This presents a risk, but if you complete them during the wave when they activate, you'll earn heavy ammo to help with the defense. I think this is really cool. They basically said that the difficulty is going to ramp up similar to how the Coil does, which really excited me. Ritual playlist version of Onslaught will have you battling through 10 waves to defend a single location, while Standard and Legend will feature 50 total waves across 3 locations. The Legend version will have everything you've come to expect with the more challenging difficulty modes, including champions and weekly modifiers. Very, very, very excited for this. A quick preview of what's coming on Tuesday's live stream, which I absolutely cannot wait for. The Brave Arsenal, which this is Shax's selection. And as they said, if it's dangerous, it's time to bring it back. That's essentially the theme here. A new social space plus new rewards. The social space, everything at this point. The key art, the Final Shape Collector's Edition, the unused files that have been sitting in the game for a couple of years now. It's time. The OG Tower. I'm saying it right now. There's no better time. I truly think the OG Tower was intended to be where we ended the Final Shape at, and I do think that that's still where we're going to end it. Not necessarily as a battle, but as similar to like when you retake the city in Vanilla D2. I think that this was kind of intended to be that moment. I just hope that, okay, we're here. I would love for it to still be under construction, and then the next time you go to it, post Final Shape campaign, boom, like the triumphant music is there and everything. I am extremely excited for that. And then Destiny 1 inspired armor and more. So I'm very curious. It sounds like next week is all about the goodies. All about the goodies we can earn. So that's all stuff worth being excited about. I understand if you're not pumped for a horde mode. I would say even if you don't like Horde, hey, there is the 10 level one for you. Like there's the 10 level one for you. I think the rewards are going to be worth it. Of course, we'll know that on Tuesday if they're going to be worth it or not. Curious to know if they're going to be craftable at all. And I really want to shout out. I want to shout out someone in particular who was on the live stream. Noah was awesome. He was the associate activities designer who was we were seeing through the eyes of his guardian. Incredible. Just an awesome guy, awesome presence. Gave us really good gameplay. We saw a good mixture of combat and objective gameplay with him. Obviously, trying not to pick up too many rewards so that we didn't see things we aren't supposed to see yet. We did inadvertently show Midnight Coup, which looks like it has some awesome rolls on it. Really interested to see what the trade is on these weapons too. But unfortunately, he got absolutely bombarded. And this is, I said we had to talk about some ugly. He got absolutely bombarded with just a wave of bullshit during this, including racist, homophobic, and just downright ugly Steam names. Bungie has already come out and made a statement saying that they have banned every single person who sent those friend requests to him, and they were all popping up on screen. Noah said he did not see any of that. That he did not see any of that popping up on screen. Like that dude was dialed in. But it was really ugly. A lot of us, I know I myself did not catch it during the stream. I was kind of like half watching, half writing. There's no place in this community. Like I'm so tired. The Destiny community has gotten just so ugly over the last couple of years, and I know that this is just a handful of people, but unfortunately, the shitheads get they get the attention. They get the attention that they're seeking, essentially. And it's getting really, really, really hard to ignore people like that. I know that's the best policy, ban and move on. So a lot of us, I know myself, I was hoping for an IP or a hardware ban here, because I think this just you can't be that much of a child. I don't even think it's like a childish thing. I think it's just pure hate and malice. Like you're jealous of somebody who is doing an awesome job, and like God forbid that Bungie gets a W under their belt, right? There were also a lot of people in the comments of the stream spamming the recycle emote. I don't know what you guys wanted. Like it is really hard to get this shit put together as quickly as they have. And I'm not like, listen, I'm far from like wanting to defend Bungie at this point, but there are still a lot of really talented and passionate developers there, including, in leadership on the game. We're not talking C-suite here. We're talking like Joe Blackburn and below, who are really excited about this content. And they supposedly knew about the delay at the beginning of October. Like sometime in October is when they were kind of told that, hey, the game's going to get delayed. So you had sometime in October plus the like absolute like mental trauma of like 10% of your coworkers getting laid off, plus the holidays, to put this activity together in like 4 months. I think they've actually done a really good job in figuring out how to weave it into the narrative, because apparently all these weapons and this armor is all going to have new lore on it that is relevant to where we're going. So we're going to have some pretty big lore corners coming up here between now and the final shape with this and the collector's edition. I don't understand, because one of the things I've seen from this community for so long is we want a horde mode. We want a horde style mode. We want a permanent horde mode. And then you all get upset when you get one. Maybe another pass can be taken down the line where we get, new variations of Onslaught. Like I think that'd be really cool. Oh, maybe we can rotate some weapon stocks, and maybe this is a great vessel to give us older weapons, older weapon arsenals that we can't get anymore. Or, oh, you can pick your rewards or something like that. Like, this could be a really cool method for delivering some of that. But I think that's going to all depend on the long-term future of Bungie, which we kind of have to get to next. Within a couple hours of this stream ending, and I thought it was a fairly positive one outside of, the racism of it all. we get news from on high about Marathon and about Bungie as a company. And they say when it rains, it pours. And it seems like Bungie's troubles are not over. We hadn't heard about shit from inside of Bungie for a few months, so we all kind of like took a breather. Rebecca Valentine over at IGN reported this. And if you guys remember, we've read a lot of Reb's reports over the years, from the sexual harassment cases that were going on there to the layoffs last year. So she's got another essential piece here. There's been a shakeup on Marathon. Bungie is in the midst of shifting around its creative leadership on Marathon, including removing longtime Bungie designer Christopher Barrett from the game director role. IGN has learned that he's being replaced by former Valorant game director Joe Ziegler, who left Riot Games for Bungie in 2022. We actually found this out from him before this piece went live. He just tweeted it out. Just like out of nowhere, he goes, fun update. For the last 9 months, I've been working on Marathon as the game director. We're still baking, but I'm excited to share with you more info on the game as we get closer and closer to bringing it to all of you. First of all, what? Him taking over would have meant he took over right after that first Vidoc. Right after the game got revealed to the world is when he took over. That's insane. That's absolutely insane to me. The next paragraph does not help either. IGN has reached out to Bungie for comment on whether or not Barrett will remain with the company. Bungie's not yet responded to IGN's request for comment, but shortly after we reached out, Ziegler confirmed his appointment as game director on Twitter. While this is going on, sources tell IGN that Bungie is pouring resources into getting Marathon out the door. The game's direction has shifted under Ziegler's new leadership, one source says, including moving away from custom player characters in favor of a selectable cast of heroes. Yikes. If you guys remember, the first news that we had about Marathon back in, I believe it was October 2022, September or October 2022, I actually missed the show where we talked about this. We had reports from Jeff Grubb and from Insider Gaming talking about Marathon for the first time. And one of the things that they highlighted was a really intricate character designer. I'm so tired of hero shooters. I don't know where the fascination with this came from. I know Overwatch was wildly popular, Apex is popular, and I guess those two have just kind of like dictated the market on this, but I don't think hero shooters work. I'm going to be totally honest. This makes me so much less interested in playing Marathon now. I already wasn't too high on it. I'm pretty annoyed that this is the way that they're going with this game. And it just gets worse. It gets worse. While the Destiny 2 expansion, the final shape, is being prioritized, there are growing fears and rumors that layoffs will immediately follow its release. One person with knowledge of budgets at Bungie told me nothing adds up and something will need to happen to curb costs unless the final shape does so well to cover the gap and people can move to Marathon. Yikes. When Sony acquired Bungie, the studio brought with it a number of other incubation projects. We have talked about some of these on this show, and we are finally putting a lot of these to rest, including a MOBA-like game codenamed Gummy Bears and a new IP known as Matter. According to sources, Matter was canceled back in 2020. We've been talking about this game for like 3 years. But the team continued working on a smaller project with slightly different direction until that too was canceled in late 2022. Gummy Bears, meanwhile, is currently in a holding pattern due to the ongoing company struggles. I would assume that was probably the hero style game that we had heard about in the past. I don't think that was meant to be Marathon. I think this was the hero style game we had heard about. Within the company, there is a growing expectation that senior company leadership will leave in droves in the summer of 2026 when the final payouts from Sony's acquisition of the company take effect. With this in mind, there is a strong push to get Marathon out the door before then, and let whoever takes the reins after that, be it Sony or Bungie, worry about how it's sustained. Yikes, 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 yikes. There is nothing good about those sentences that we just read. I would be absolutely furious if I was reading this and I was a designer on Marathon. If I was a designer on Destiny, I would be absolutely furious reading this. Because holy shit, what a fucking thing to have to go to the press about. This just kind of confirms what we were talking about in October and November of last year when all the layoffs happened. And you talk about C-suite leadership and whatnot. Pete Parsons has to go. Pete Parsons and Jason Jones and whoever their other buddies up there are, they gotta go. They gotta go. If you want any hope of this studio surviving, they gotta go. I do think it's more likely that Sony probably is going to step in and dissolve the Bungie board this summer. We'd heard that if they didn't meet sales projections and they didn't meet revenue targets, that Sony has an option in their acquisition clause to step in and dissolve the Bungie board, which none of us want. But at this point, genuinely, it might be the best option. I hate being that person, but this actually might be the best move for Sony to protect their investment. Number one, like I can't think outside of the Embracer Group. I can't think of the last time a major company acquired a studio and it went as badly as this has. Bungie also, if you'll remember, was advising on a lot of Sony's live service initiatives, and due to their counsel, things like The Last of Us Online were canceled. I think it's pretty fair to wonder, did Bungie know what they were talking about? Like, there's this growing feeling, I think, that Destiny was lightning in a bottle. You know, they wanted to make something different after Halo, and it's like, Halo was all... I mean, they've captured lightning twice. Can they do it a third time with Marathon is the question. With this Marathon reboot, and I am growing less and less confident. I don't know where you go from here. That last paragraph, I think, is absolutely everybody's worst fear confirmed that we kind of started to feel last year, right? Like, oh, well, they're just biding time until everything vests and then they're going to bounce, you know? Kind of similar. I don't want to say it's exactly what he did, but Pete Hines from Bethesda kind of did something similar last year. He bounced in the summer right before Starfield came out, right after Redfall came out, right before Starfield. I don't think he thought, oh, Starfield has quality issues or anything, but it was just like he was tired of he was tired of bullshit. He didn't like, a lot of decisions that were being made, and Microsoft was stepping in and taking more control over Bethesda after saying they weren't going to, and then they kind of had to with the disaster that was Redfall. That's, I think, what Sony is trying to avoid here. Sony does not want a Redfall on their hands. They have a reputation to maintain. They are the number one first party company in maybe ever. The run that they have gone on, I would say since 2016, 2017. When did Horizon come out? 2017. The run they've gone on for the last 6-7 years has been phenomenal. Specifically, you look at 2020 to 2022, just phenomenal output. The only company that ever has that much acclaim in their first-party suite is Nintendo, and I would argue that for those years, Sony was better. I would argue Sony's output was greater. Not a lot of remasters and re-releases, just tons of original games, highly acclaimed games, and as we've seen, unsustainable projects, just in terms of cost. And I think that's the concern here is Bungie is bleeding money. They were already bleeding money. They basically took the acquisition out of necessity from everything that we understand. And we're like, well, how on earth would you put that clause in? Well, now it makes sense. Bungie really thought they were gonna make that money back. And it's so weird because the acquisition happened in the lead up to the Witch Queen, which I think the year leading up to the Witch Queen is some of the best times we've ever had in Destiny 2. It's arguably the best time we've ever had in Destiny 2. Outside of the year of Forsaken, I would say that is arguably the best we've ever had, was the seasons that followed Beyond Light. All that seasonal content, that was really the first time we had seasons as they exist now. And it culminated in the 30th anniversary and the Witch Queen. And even the first couple seasons of the Witch Queen were awesome. I would say 3 out of 4 seasons that followed Witch Queen were great. We really didn't start stumbling until this last year. And now I think that's more indicative of bigger problems at the company. So, man, let's finish reading this out. We got a little bit more here. Bungie has found itself rocked by a number of major shakeups in recent years that have tanked morale at the studio and left its future uncertain. Sony officially acquired the studio mid-2022 with the promise it would largely remain a semblance of freedom as an independent subsidiary. While sources say that's largely remained true, Bungie has struggled to meet key financial targets, and Destiny 2 significantly underperformed last year. In October, Bungie laid off roughly 100 of its then 1,200 employees amid greater cost-cutting measures that saw Marathon delayed to 2025 and employee benefits slashed, further damaging the mood internally. Notably, multiple sources at the time and since have shared that Sony has largely left the studio to sort out its own troubles and was not responsible for the layoffs, with CEO Pete Parsons taking responsibility. You guys can't see me, but I'm saying that in air quotes. However, sources also told IGN that when leaders were asked if they had considered taking pay cuts prior to making layoff decisions, one responded that Bungie was not that type of company. Internally, the sentiment is only growing that the final shape needs to succeed for Bungie to avoid further internal turmoil. Neither Bungie nor Sony responded to request for comment. I would probably take this with a grain of salt if it hadn't come straight from Rebecca. I'm going to be totally honest. She has a history of getting the stories within Bungie and them being accurate. She's one of the best reporters in the business. Full disclosure, I do know Reb. Not like super personally, but I have talked with her before. She's great. She's a great reporter. She came from gamesindustry.biz. She knows what she's talking about. Like, you've got Jason Schreier, you've got guys who clearly have an in at Bungie. Jason, Tom Warren, Tom Henderson, who writes for Insider Gaming. We've talked. He had the leaks on Marathon. When it comes to actual like pure journalism coming out of there, Reb is one of the best. And she's one of the best in the industry. I take it pretty seriously when she writes about something like this, and specifically when it comes to studios and like labor and things. So I'm extremely curious to see how the final shape plays out. I'm sure this delay did not help matters when Sony can look at it. I do think Sony's going to move to take control of the board, and it's a little bleak. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little bleak. Maybe it's not the worst thing. I think that if Sony hadn't just had a huge hit in Helldivers, I think that we'd be a lot more concerned, and rightfully so. But instead, I'm kind of looking at this and going, okay, maybe this isn't the worst thing I've ever seen. It's still not great, but maybe it's not awful. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not super duper jazzed about this. And that's a bummer. It's a bummer that we have to sit here and talk about this in a week where we have so much to celebrate. There's so much good going on. And that's not great. So, moving on. We do have some questions. We're going to do questions and we're going to get out of here. Like I said, short show today. Sammy asks... they asked two questions. We already answered their second one. Do you think that some of the Destiny community has a tendency to overhype things? Yes, 100%. I am absolutely tired of it too. Like there was a cycle for years. There's a chart of oh my god, this activity's so good, and then a couple weeks later, oh, this activity's lacking. A few weeks later, oh my god, Destiny's so boring. Is Destiny dying? And then, oh my god, we're so back. When the next season starts. That's exactly how I feel, and I think that is largely due to content creators. They rely on hype cycles to make their money, but also like Bungie's a company. They're a capitalist company. They need you to get hyped at certain times to hit those revenue targets. Like this is a fact of life in this industry. I hate to break it to you. I think that we get like this with everything. I think that look at like every movie or game that comes out. It has to either be the greatest thing. It has to be a 10 out of 10, or it's trash. I would say look at the discourse around Dragon's Dogma 2 right now. Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin are two great examples. Rise of the Ronin is getting largely 7s from reviewers, and people are like, I'm not playing this. I'm absolutely not playing this. What a trash-ass game. I can't believe that Sony would let something like this release. A 7 on a 10-point scale is good. That is a good game. It is good but flawed. Okay? Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. Whereas, like, then there's people who are so mad that, like, IGN gave Dragon's Dogma 2 an 8, but you gave Pentiment a 10. Yeah, different reviewers, different tastes. Congratulations. Welcome to multiple reviewers. Like, but we've been so conditioned that everything has to be the greatest thing that we've ever played that folks just don't pay attention to it anymore. And then, do you think a more realist perspective would lead to a better future with all the bad people harassing during the live stream recently? I'm kind of curious to see what you mean by that. I think that just like leveling with people, like just being straight up, like, yeah, we've got a lot of problems going on, but you can't come out and say that, right? You can't say that as a studio because then that just opens the door for the harassment. I think honestly the solution is just gonna be they're not gonna do things like this in the future if people keep behaving this way. I think it's gonna take hardware and it's gonna take IP bans to do this. I don't think banning a Steam name for a free to play game is gonna get you anywhere. I'm gonna be totally honest. Okay, cool. The people who are doing this don't care about that. Banning their entire Steam account, though, banning their whole library or IP banning them from things like Steam, that's gonna get traction because then you're out thousands of dollars. Oh, your machine suddenly is useless, essentially. Like, no, like that's what kind of has to start happening to these people. Titan writes in, I know a lot of us would like them to take a break after the final shape for the next expansion, but would you rather them do episodes and do a crazy new expansion after the break, or would you rather them bring back the old Sunset content and then do a new expansion? I don't know if that would be financially feasible, but I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. I mean, I'm still maintaining that I think that the 10th anniversary was supposed to be a time when they were going to bring things back because you got to remember this expansion was supposed to launch in February. It was supposed to launch the last week of February, and you would have been approaching episode 3. We would have been probably towards the middle, maybe the last maybe the last third of episode 2 by that point. I really think the 10th anniversary has to, if you're ever going to unvault the content, the 10th anniversary is when you do it. I don't think doing a separate paid experience like you did for the Bungie 30th anniversary is the solution here. You have no goodwill. You cannot charge people for more things. I think that is probably when you drop that. I personally would rather see the old content come back before you go on and tell some new story, and that is 100% so you can play the complete story from start to finish. Especially if I don't like to talk this way, but if the final shape does end up being Destiny's swan song, I think you need to bring that content back. And I don't think that bringing it back a year after the final shape comes out is the solution. That is only going to sustain you for so long. That's going to get you a bunch of goodwill, but maybe that buys you some time. I don't know. I really don't think we're getting an expansion next year. I want to be super honest. I think the earliest you're going to see another Destiny expansion is going to be 2026. It'll probably be in Q1, but that's going to be the next time you see it. I would suspect that, I mean, it sounds like they are going to rush Marathon out the door as quickly as possible. That the next time that you see a Destiny expansion, it will not be with the current leadership at Bungie. I think maybe they do another episodes pass next year. And again, like you said, maybe they rely on that old content, but I think we also overhype what the old content was. I mean, if you're really going to bring it back, okay, you're bringing back the campaigns for Vanilla and for Forsaken. You're bringing back the Curse of Osiris and Warmind campaigns. Sorry, I had to laugh a little there. You're bringing all those strikes back, which I think is that's the biggest addition, is you're bringing all those strikes back. And then you're presumably bringing back all those destinations. If they aren't brought back over time, I'm not convinced that they're not going to bring back those destinations little by little in episodes, which I actually think would be really cool if you drift fed those to us. And then presumably you're getting 5 raids that nobody was playing anyways. So kind of pick your poison. What do you want to do? They obviously need a better financial model. We've established this. I don't know what else. I don't know what else you do at this point. I just don't know what you do. I think this is a great jumping off point, but this franchise has so much potential. It has a lot of potential, and I think it's largely been squandered. I'm not going to be one of those who's going to run around and be like, Destiny sucks now. I don't think it does, but I think for me personally, my best days are behind me at this point. And it's don't get me wrong. I'm very excited for the final shape. Seeing Onslaught made me the most excited that I've been in months. I haven't been this excited since, I don't know, the cutscene to end Season of the Witch. That might have been the last time I got super excited, figuring out that we were gonna have to use the 15th wish and Savathun being brought back just to be killed by Eris. There was some great stuff that happened there, and then again, more stuff happened off screen that we didn't get to see. And I think that there's been moments throughout this last year that I've been oh my god, these are vintage Destiny moments for me. The Operation Avalon, the Excalibur mission, the Wicked Implement secret that was hidden within the deep dive. That was really cool. I think Ghost of the Deep is a great dungeon. I really enjoyed Ron. Crota Zen coming back was awesome. That was an awesome experience. And, Warlords of Ruin. Yeah, sure, Warlords of Ruin. I like it, but, it's not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing ever. There's a reason why I don't have a bunch of clears of it. And then there's been a lot of, not great things. So unless we can, consistently get great material, I don't know where I want them to go. I want them to take a break from expansions for a while. The next expansion needs to have... I think we've... If Final Shape lands and is good, then I think that proves you need 18 months between expansions. We had 18 months of production leading into the Witch Queen, and look how good it was. They were working on Forsaken before Vanilla came out, I believe. Same with the Taken King was largely content cut from D1, and they spent a whole year refining it. There is benefit in getting this stuff out there after the proper time and not following a strict 12-month cycle. And I think Sony will be forgiving if you just talk to them about it. Right? So that's my thing. I would rather them take a break and go back to the lab and cook. Do episodes. Keep your team working on stuff, but put everybody else on a new expansion that's going to drop in 2 years. That's my 2 cents. So with them not bringing the old campaigns back, do you ever think we'll get them back? That's from Jiggly Panda. I do think we're getting them. I do think we'll get them back. I think before they pull the plug for good on D2, we're getting them back. You charged them for us. We got to get those back. I don't really care if things like Forges and Reckoning come back or Menagerie. I don't give a shit about any of that. I really care about this stuff, though. This is the stuff that I care about. Also, what's a cool concert or show you have been to, if you've been to any? So I used to work at a concert venue. That was my first real job. I don't count working at Six Flags as a real job. I worked at a concert venue here in Dallas during college, and I got to see a ton of really cool shows. I would say some of the best ones I got to see, I've seen Muse 4 times. 3 or 4 times I've seen Muse live. Incredible every time. I've seen them all the way from playing a small venue of 1,000 people to playing AT&T Stadium. Incredible show every time. Seen the Foo Fighters live. That was a great... In fact, that's the last show I went to, and that was pre-COVID. I haven't been to a concert since pre-COVID. I also just got old, and so I don't like going to loud rock. I went to so many loud shows as a teenager that my hearing is pretty fucked up. Wish I would have thought about that when I was 15, but oh well. I would say the best show I've ever seen was Jay-Z and Kanye together on Watch the Throne. That was an absolutely phenomenal tour. That is probably the most high energy show I've ever been to in my life. That was really cool. Bruno Mars was really good. The Who was awesome. Metallica was awesome. God, I saw Metallica 15 years ago. I saw them back in high school. Lamb of God and Gojira opened for them. My history teacher at the time, I went to a Christian high school, for those of you who don't know. My history teacher actually moved me down. I had tickets literally in the very top row of the arena, and he moved me and a buddy all the way down to the lower bowl. That was really cool. Believe it or not, Green Day actually put on a really good show, again, 15 years ago. My very first day of college, I actually saw Green Day for the first time. They played almost all their songs were from Dookie, American Idiot, and 21st Century Breakdown. That was really cool. I've gotten to see a lot of really good shows. Red Hot Chili Peppers was awesome. Unfortunately, it was a tour for an album I didn't give a shit about, but it was really cool to see them still. It was their reunion tour. It was their first tour they did after Stadium Arcadium. So it was years after. It was probably 5 years after Stadium Arcadium. So that was a really cool tour. Of course, they played everything from Californication, By the Way, Stadium. It was great. Bottom line, I've been to a lot of really cool shows in my time. Pearl Jam was incredible. Pearl Jam was going home. That's the closest to grunge that I grew up on that I actually got to see. So obviously I'll never get to see Nirvana. But man, Eddie Vedder still got it. Eddie Vedder has still got it. It was absolutely incredible. And Encade writes in with our final question. Oh, excuse me. Jiggly Panda also asked if what's one you would love to go to. What's a show? I would love to go back in time and see Prime Tom Petty. I'd love to see Prime Tom Petty. I would love to see the Ramones back in the day. A lot of mine are like groups that are no longer touring. Obviously, like Nirvana. I love Nirvana. I'd love to go see Kurt Cobain in person at a show. Groups that are currently touring. Man, I don't know. My music tastes have changed so much over the years that I truly don't know if I have an answer anymore to this question. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Yeah. Actually, I would love to see the Killers. I have, despite them being one of my favorite groups of all time, I have never once seen the Killers live, and that bothers me. So I would absolutely love to see the Killers. I think the Killers would be great. I would love to see it. I'd love to see them live. That's my answer. Yeah, that's my answer. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see the Decemberists. Yeah, those are gonna be my two answers for you. I almost said metric, and then I'd seen metric. Cade 6 writes in and asks, I know it's been discussed before, but it hasn't been in a bit. With the elongated season, I have finally been able to grind things like enhancement cores, prisms, and ascendant shards. I also now have more legendary shards than ever before. What do you think Bungie needs to do with these going away? For, I assume you meant the final shape, not Lightfall. Personally, I hope they let you convert into crafting materials, not just let them go poof. I hate to break it to you, brother. I think that these are going poof. Maybe you'll be able to turn them in for crafting materials. There's some of us that have like 80,000 of these things, and I just don't know what good that's going to do any of us. I'd like to turn them in for like vendor rep, maybe. Specifically at the gunsmith, I think that would be really cool. I don't know. Let me spend them on stuff. Let me like for every like 10,000 I turn in, give me like 10,000 bright dust or something. I don't know. Do some sort of like fun conversion for those of us who have been around for eons. Second question: what's your favorite ice cream? Oh, brother, listen, it's anything that combines cookies and cream with cookie dough. So either if you for all my Texas people, HEB cookies over Texas, or if you're in the other non-Texas states, which good for you, Bluebell cookie two-step. That's like the only answers. It's the only answers. I'm not a huge ice cream guy. I got to be honest. Like that's why I like those is because I'm not a huge ice cream person. I'm like a shake and malt guy. I would prefer to get one of those. I'm just never been a huge ice cream person. I like froyo. I like soft serve, but I don't like really like dig ice cream. My partner's exactly the opposite. She loves ice cream. I think that's going to do it for us. This is a really short episode. This is only an hour long, but we are going to be back next week with probably another. I would say like the next couple weeks are probably going to be pretty short episodes. And it's not like, oh, there's nothing to talk about. It's just like, well, there isn't. Like there really isn't. I just there's not a whole lot to talk about in here. I am like realizing that I missed a sandbox update from the PvP strike team. We're going to talk about that next week because it's not live yet. These are tunings that are happening, so I'll save this and we'll go over it next week. There's some stuff in there that I'm excited about. Some changes for autos, pulses, and scout rifles in particular that I'm pretty pumped about. So we'll go over that next week. Well, the results of Guardian games next week. Really interested to see how that's gonna go. But yeah, so you guys have a good week. I don't even know how to end this. Like, y'all have a good week. Be good to each other. Don't be the little shitheads that we saw on that stream. Write in, let us know what you guys think about Onslaught. If you guys think that it looks cool, sounds cool, especially after the weapons drop next week. I want to hear everybody's thoughts on I want to hear everybody's thoughts on the weapon package. I want to hear your thoughts on the weapons, on the armor. I'm very excited to see what everybody thinks on those because I'm personally pretty pumped. I'm starting to get excited again, guys. I think Into the Light's going to be a fun little interlude, and I think it's really important that this is coming out with like 6 or 7 weeks to go, and it's going to be like the ramp up. So like right as I start getting tired of this, and like everybody, like the community starts getting tired of Onslaught, those of us who aren't going to grind it repeatedly on day one, like some of these content creators are going to, those of us who play a little bit more casually are going to be getting tired of it right around that time. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. June 4th can't get here soon enough. That's going to be a really busy day, too. We have the final shape dropping that day. The Acolyte is premiering that day. The next Star Wars TV series. That looks really dope. And it's also my 32nd birthday. So that's going to be a very, very, very busy day. We got a lot to get through between now and then, though. I mean, we're a little over 2 months out. We're about 9 weeks away. We are 8 episodes away from episode 200. We've been over that. We're about 8 episodes away from that. It's going to be a pretty exciting time. We've got a lot to get through, both on this show and on Xbox Casuals before then. Dragon's Dogma 2, by the time you're listening to this, Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be hours away. Very excited for that. I'm still trying to work my way through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is more massive of a game than I could have imagined. Very excited about finishing up Rebirth, moving on to Dragon's Dogma, maybe trying to get the Rise of the Ronin. My ROG Ally is going to be on the way here very soon, so I'm pulling the trigger on that. We're starting Baldur's Gate 3. You will get Baldur's Casuals before the final shape. I promise that. Johnny and I will sit down and talk Baldur's Gate at some point in May. That's the goal right now. Sometime in May, we're going to sit down and talk about it. I got my Rock Band controller ordered from PDP. They are remaking those, reissuing them for use with Rock Band and with Fortnite Festival. So I went ahead and grabbed one of those. I'm very excited to get in and spend like $200 in Rock Band over the summer. Not even a joke. Diablo 4 has an awesome new patch coming that looks like it's totally going to change the entire game. That's also dropping on Game Pass next week with the new update. So keep an eye out on that. Maybe we'll talk a little Diablo coming up. And yeah, until next time, Corey will be back with us next week. You guys will actually get a video version of it next week instead of just hearing my voice drone on and on for an hour. And until then, we'll see you Starside. Later, guys.